Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for checking out my show, Coin Stories, where I get to hear from the leading voices in Bitcoin, financial markets and investing, political structures, philosophy, and more. Please make sure you're subscribed to the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like the video so more people see it, and hit that notifications button so you don't miss out on any new content. This podcast does not provide financial advice. It is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So make sure to do your own research before making any investment decision and be aware of your risk tolerance. I'm able to produce this show thanks to my sponsors, and I'm very picky about who I choose to partner with. So I hope you take the time to listen to the ad reads throughout the show. All right, now to my first partner, where I buy my Bitcoin, Swan. I partnered with Swan because it is a Bitcoin-only company focused on helping people save for their future and self-custody their Bitcoin, not trade it. You can start a direct deposit to take advantage of Bitcoin as a savings technology and learn how to take it off the exchange. Swan's mission is to educate 10 million future Bitcoiners through free resources and media projects like Hard Money. Swan also offers retirement planning with an IRA, tax loss harvesting, home equity conversion, and a white glove private client service. I use Swan to dollar cost average every day. That's right. I deposit a little bit every day that's equivalent to what I might spend on a meal so that I add to my future nest egg and lower my yearly cost basis. To learn more and get $10 in free Bitcoin when you sign up, head to swanbitcoin.com/Natalie Brunell. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I'm really excited to have with me NVK, who's the founder of Coinkite. You may be familiar with the Coldcard Wallet. And we're going to be talking about cold storage and self-custody. And I haven't done an episode like this. I also have made it a point not to endorse any products because personally, I think that this is one of the most challenging aspects of Bitcoin adoption is getting people to understand how to take custody safely, understanding the seed phrase, understanding the wallets. And I never wanted to endorse or talk about any particular wallet because it takes so much self-responsibility to take your Bitcoin and hold it safely. So this is a first for me. This isn't a sponsored show. NVK is not, requested this, but I wanted to talk because this has been in the news lately. Some of the other storage wallets, I don't ever share which ones I use or don't use, but I will share with you that I was always intimidated by the Coldcard because I've heard that it's the most difficult to use. And I think you're going to convince me otherwise. So NVK, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. It's nice to see that you're taking the leap there in better self-custody.
Yeah, well, I do. I really want to learn because this is the most important. I mean, if you're going to have Bitcoin, you have to hold it safely. You don't want to have it on a hot wallet or on one of these exchanges that could potentially be compromised. So normally I start with the person's origin story and backstory first, but I'm going to flip this around and do the format kind of backwards because I know that I have a lot of people who are newcomers watching this show and they don't even necessarily know what cold storage is or how to best keep their Bitcoin safe. So let's start there. What is a cold storage wallet?
So, essentially, we're trying to defend bits, right? Like private keys, and Bitcoin is protected by a big secret, which is often your 1224 words, right? And anybody who's been in the industry of security, computer security for many years, um, understands that one of the best ways to keep bits secure is by not having them connected to the internet, right? And not have them connected to anything that is connected to the internet. Because even if you have a very secure device, right? There's still potential for bugs and nothing's infallible, right? So by just not having it connected to the internet, you already remove the capacity of 90% of the attackers to get a hold of it because they're not in your house, right? They're out in some like in some Balkan country somewhere, trying to get in, and they just can't because it's just not available to them.
So why would someone want to purchase a hardware wallet and actually take that responsibility on as opposed to trusting what is essentially the equivalent of a commercial bank?
So, Bitcoin has two upsides, right? If you want to oversimplify it. One is, defense against debasement. So if the government inflates the money supply, you're not exposed to that as a Bitcoiner, right? Now, if you have Bitcoin on an exchange, you do have access to the debasement defense, because now you own an asset, right, that doesn't get debased. Now, here's the thing: the exchange is third-party risk, right? So they could take the Bitcoin from you. You don't actually own the Bitcoin; you own a claim to a Bitcoin on an exchange. Now, the second and one of the most important aspects of Bitcoin is the fact that you can take ownership, take custody of that asset, so that you enjoy both protection against debasement and uncensorable or unconfiscatable protection as well, right? So nobody can take that Bitcoin from you, and now nobody can debase you. So you really want to take advantage of both aspects of Bitcoin.
Now, a lot of people think that when you're putting your Bitcoin on a cold storage wallet, that it's sort of like plugging in a hard drive and moving a file from your computer or from, the server of a exchange and placing it on your hard drive. But that's not how this really works, right? So can you kind of explain in a way that a 5-year-old or my grandma could understand how it actually works when you take self-custody? What's happening to the Bitcoin?
So think about Bitcoin as a big ledger, right? So a big spreadsheet of who owns what, right? Nobody actually has Bitcoin. You just have a claim to the Bitcoin, the blockchain. And then when you want to spend Bitcoin, all you're doing is signing, kind of like signing a check. You're just signing and saying, hey, this coin is mine, and now I'm assigning ownership to this other person. So it's very important to keep the secret that produces that signature very safe, because if somebody takes access to that secret, they could sign all your coins to themselves.
So what is a seed phrase?
So Bitcoin uses these ginormous numbers to keep your secret safe, right? Your secret is essentially a ginormous number, right? Very, very big.
Too
It's
big
like
for our
bigger than
brains
all
to
the grains of
comprehend. Yeah.
sand on Earth. Okay, so there was this very clever idea, which is, why don't we produce the secret using words that are easy for people to remember, right? So we have this thing called BIP39, and it's determined. It's a mnemonic. It's a mnemonic. Mnemonic just means humans can sort of remember with words. Oversimplify again.
Mhm.
um, and essentially, we use these 12 words as the way to generate secrets, to generate these big numbers. So the basic math on this is very simple. So essentially, you're just multiplying. Say you have a very big number of words you can pick from, right? So we have about over 2,000 words we can pick from for this. And you're just multiplying the chance of the next word being one of 2,000. So essentially 1 of 2,000, 1 of 2,000 times 2,000, 1 of 2,000 times 2,000, 2,000, right? So the number becomes really, really big fast, and it gets us to 128 bits with 12 words, or 256 bits with 24 words.
And obviously 24 words, that's the more secure, right? I mean, you have the choice when you sign up and you have a hardware wallet, you can choose the 12 or 24, but most people recommend to have the 24, right? And then you write it down on a piece of paper, or what do you do with it?
So so essentially, if you're thinking very, very, very long-term storage, right, like you want to leave it to your heirs, I highly recommend using 24 words. 12 words is very secure. It's fine. But, it's like we start getting to math paranoia. That's why we suggest 24 words. And now you have this 24 words. Like you write them down on paper first. Okay. We always ship a little piece of paper that has the 24 slots for words in order. The order matters.
Yes.
And then paper burns, right? So people came up with this very clever thing, which is you essentially stamp it in metal. Very easy to do. It seems silly, but it's like super. You're getting like 1,000x safety with that, right? So essentially, you get the seed plate, little metal plates, right? And you just stamp the first 4 letters of each word, which is all we need. I won't get into details why, but only the first 4 letters. And now you have a device that protects your wealth against house fires, for example. and or floods or anything like that. And I mean, the equivalent to that would be to have, say, for example, you want to hold, $100,000, $1 million worth of gold in your house, right? You would need a lot of guys with guns. You would need a lifting, like forklift or something, because it's very heavy. You need massive safes, right? It gets very tricky. Now with Bitcoin, you can hold $1 billion in a little plate that has 12 words in it. And you can, like, I don't know, cement in your walls, like do something that is a little bit more clever with it.
Yeah.
And you're super protected.
Or simply memorize it. Can you just clarify again, how are those words generated?
So there's a few ways we can do this, right? You can do it so you let the hardware device, right? So say in our case, Coldcard generate for you, right? It does the math, generates words, and just tell you, hey, write these down. And then this is specific to Coldcard. The other wallets, most of them don't support anything like this, but you can essentially mix dice rolls with the Coldcard generation, so that even if Coldcard goes rogue, we can't cheat, right? Because you're mixing in your entropy as well. And there is a third way for the ultra paranoid, which is you can throw in 99 dice rolls and generate your own entropy that then gives you the words.
Okay, that might be a little too over my head, but
yeah.
But you brought up a good point that someone might wonder. Okay, so you have a device, whatever brand it is, it gives you this seed phrase. How does someone know that the company that makes the wallet not have access to the seed phrase?
Yes. So that's why we go back to that part where, or the math that the device is doing to generate the seeds can be provable, right? So that means that maybe you, as an average user, is not going to check the source code, is not going to throw 99 dices, right? None of the stuff. But the people who are paranoid, who are programmers, who can do this stuff, they go and they check, right? Our source code is checked by all these people. And then, because the source code is signed deterministically, it's complicated stuff, but essentially the source code is signed, right? They can come to the same conclusion compiling the code themselves. So you're essentially leveraging, right, this open code that other people who have the capability to verify, but because it's signed, you also benefit from that. So you don't have to check it yourself. Ideally you do, but you don't have to.
But how does someone know? I mean, they go into it because now you can buy these on Target, on Walmart, Amazon, and you get one in the mail and you turn it on, you connect it to your computer. How do you know that when it generates that seed phrase that you're the only person that has access to it and it's safe and cannot be hacked and cannot be basically used as if they are you?
That's a great question. This is the reason why I always recommend people buying directly from the manufacturers, right? This is just too important. I know it's nice to have Amazon same-day shipping. I know it's nice to just walk into a Target, but you're holding your life savings here. Buy directly from the manufacturer, wait a little longer to get it. You do the checking of the signatures, you do some of these things. For example, we ship in a secure bag, right? Like kind of like airport, when you buy alcohol at the airport, they put in this bag that's tamper proof exactly. So get it directly from the manufacturer. It's worth waiting a little more than taking that risk.
Bitcoin 2024 is coming to Nashville in Tennessee, a city that is known as a music and freedom city. Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville from July 25th to 27th.
Next up, Fold. Fold is the best Bitcoin rewards debit card and shopping app in the world. You can earn Bitcoin on everything you purchase, from Amazon to groceries to sprucing up your wardrobe with Fold's Bitcoin cashback debit card. And you can win free Satoshis every day, or even play for the chance to win a whole Bitcoin by spinning the daily wheel and the purchase rewards wheel. And now on Fold, you can buy Bitcoin directly and earn even more incentives and rewards by using the app to stack sats. It's an amazing app to get someone totally new into Bitcoin. So if you want to join the fun, head to foldapp.com/Natalie and get 10,000 in free sats when you sign up. Okay, so let's explain the difference just in case people don't know about a public key and a private key, because a lot of the literature out there, they make the analogy of an email address and a password, right? Your email address is public, but then you don't share your password with anyone. That's just for you so that you can access your email account, but everyone knows your email address so that they can send you mail. Can you explain how you describe a public key versus a private key and how that relates to your hardware wallet?
So I guess I would say it. So, for example, you have your bank account, right? But then you have a bank account number that people can send money to, right? Nobody has access to your bank account to send you money. So that's your secret, right? Nobody knows how much you have in there. Nobody knows anything about it. It's just a little closed box that ideally only you know, right? But you have a specific number that you can give to people so that they can send you money. It's not much different than that if you're like, really getting very simplistic. I mean, there's a bunch of ways we could try to explain this. Another one is, think of a tree, right? And then the roots are your secret. And then everything that comes off of there is public, right? And people can see and know how to send money to it.
Okay. I haven't heard that one. Well, it's fun because you refer to it as the secret. That's your private key.
Yes.
Okay. So before we dig into a little bit more about building a hardware wallet and what goes into it, let's talk about MultiSig, because that's also much safer, right? If you distribute the ability to access your Bitcoin. And so there are companies out there that help with this. You can, have 2 of 3 or 3 of 5, but you can also actually do it yourself. So what do you want people to know about MultiSig, and is it difficult to do?
So MultiSig is a little bit more difficult, right? There is a few companies out there that offer sort of MultiSig help, let's put it this way. But then you're sort of foregoing a little bit of privacy there. So multi-sig is the same idea of the check that we were describing, right? So with single sig, you put one signature in the check and you send it out, right? Now, say, for example, you have a corporate check that requires 2 or 3 signatures on the check. Same idea. So you need more than one signature on that check to send it out. And that does make it substantially more secure. But now it means that you have more backups, you have 3 sets of 12 words now for you to back up. So you now need 3 metal plates, and they all should be in separate locations, right? So it does add a little bit of complexity to it. Maybe I should add that there is a step in between that people really like and recommend. So you have single signature, but you have this thing called the 25th word or passphrase. What that does is you have the 12 words, but every time you want to sign, you have to add to the device extra words. So it's still a single signature, but it does split the secret into 2 essentially by having extra words.
Okay, so why did you want to build one of these devices? I'm assuming you have a computer programming, computer science, coding background.
Well, I don't, but my partner does.
Okay.
I am self-taught. The reason why we created this is because we've been in Bitcoin since literally the white paper came out, and we were doing custody of customer funds way back then. There was $4 billion worth of Bitcoin in the system, and we realized that was the wrong way of doing Bitcoin. So everybody get your funds out of here, please. We're going to close this down, and we're going to only focus on people having custody of their funds. And that included us. Me and my partner were like, okay, great. We need to put our coins somewhere now.
And there are other hardware wallets you didn't like, or they didn't exist?
Yeah, so we ordered, a bit of everything that was in the market at the time. And we were not very happy with the solutions that were in the market. We didn't like them. For our personal coins. So we're like, okay, well, let's just make one. We made it, and a lot of people were interested in the setup that we had as well. And okay, well, let's just scale this because people want it.
Well, it's interesting because you're the device that most of the Bitcoin maxis, the cypherpunk, true blue, really, some of the toxic Bitcoin maxis, they all like the Coldcard. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, we're, like, as we like to say it, I don't know if I can swear in the show, but we're not effing around, right? Like, we're doing security from a perspective of, again, a maxi, blue collar maxi there, that like is no compromise, right? We want something that the source is verifiable, that is deterministically built. We don't use just one secure element. We use two secure elements. Like, we don't trust the chip makers. We go so above and beyond. We have self-destroy pins. It's like it's an endless slew of possibilities, because my goal is, a bad guy finds your device, he cries because, like I can't do anything with this. It's a waste of my time. That is my goal.
Well, okay, you brought up a really interesting point, because I was listening to you on the What Bitcoin Did with Pascal and the whole conversation about what happened with Ledger. And at one point during the conversation, someone said that if they found a Trezor device, they could extract the seed just from having the device. And that's kind of scary. I think a lot of people might hear that and go, how the heck can you extract a seed from just the device? Can you break that down? And I mean, I'm not here to attack any one company,
Yeah, absolutely.
but just, just for that security, because also I thought that you want your hardware device separate from your seed phrase, right? You want to like be super, super secure. But if someone were to find your hard drive, I thought that unless they had your PIN, they couldn't access your seed phrase. But it sounded like that might not be the case. So what can you share?
So I mean, so Trezor made like a design decision that is not how we would do it. They don't have any physical security on the device. It's a chip that is on like toasters and microwaves kind of thing. So that means you can extract the seed with some good pen attacks there, penetration attacks there, very, very easily. Like, I mean, it takes $13 worth of gear and you can get the seed out in minutes.
No way.
Yes. That's why they recommend you using a seed phrase, right? Like a passphrase, which I believe everybody should anyways. And mind you, like, when we talk about computer security, right? Electronic security, like, nothing is infallible. Given infinite resources and infinite time and infinite samples, you could eventually get in, right? The key here is, and this is our approach, is how can I make it take longer, have failure rate, and cost a lot of money for the attackers, right? So, right now, our previous device, it took Ledger about $500,000 and like a year to break in, right? Our current device, Mark IV, nobody has demonstrated it can get in yet. Eventually, somebody will, and that's why we keep launching new versions and upgrading and thinking about this and working with chip manufacturers, because again, the key is, can I buy you a week, a month, right, to move your funds now that the device has been, maybe stolen, before your funds are gone? That is our goal.
I mean, you could probably understand why some people look at this and they go, that's too scary. I want to trust a third party. And so now there are companies, including Ledger, that say we're going to separate out, or essentially it's sharding, right? You make sure that no one person has the entire seed phrase. And there are some concerns that were raised. So again, I'm not attacking any company. I'm just trying to learn. So can you talk a little bit about, first of all, what happened with Ledger? And for those who didn't hear that conversation, it was a really interesting one between you and the CEO of Ledger on Peter McCormick's show. But what exactly happened, and why are there so many concerns, especially for those who say, I want there to be, some help on the back end in case I forget, or I don't want to just store everything myself and figure out ways to hide it around the world?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna get into like the whole PR disaster with Ledger. We've debated that a bit on McCormick's show. I think it was unfortunate. They have a good team. These are good people. Like, they're not like some evil company or anything like that. That's not the point, and it comes through in the conversation.
Yes.
But like, they did create a new product that, like, I personally find it concerning. I do think there will be a large uptake in the market. But the issue is, essentially now they offer a service where they can store your seed for you, right? And what they do is they split it in three with some complex cryptography, right? And they put it in different entities. The problem with their service is these entities have quorum, right, to spend without your permission. If they get a subpoena or a subpoena, or they get like a request from government, or they want to do a favor to government, or it's a problem, right? Like the whole point of Bitcoin is that nobody else can spend your coins except for you.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a good set of trade-offs, but I do believe there's people out there that don't mind that, because everybody thinks you're not a criminal until Trudeau gets in power and decides that you are now, your bank account can now be frozen, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. I had a question, because when I've heard about the Coldcard Wallet, I've read or heard something about an air gap. What does that mean? Air gap.
Remember on the beginning of the conversation that we were talking about keeping secrets off the internet?
Yes.
Okay.
So is this an offline? You take this offline?
Yes. So the cool thing about Coldcard is that it doesn't need a computer in order to operate. You just need a battery power for the USB there. So that means that even if the Coldcard has a bug or a problem or a backdoor or something, right? It's not connected to a computer that could take advantage of that either. So when we call it air gap, we actually mean it. There is no wires connected to any other electronic device around the device.
Okay, that's interesting, because the other ones you plug in and there's essentially software. There's software, and the concern is if you guys, or if a company sends an update that potentially could be a malicious update, there's a point of failure there, right? So I mean, do these devices need these software updates? Is it for security? Is it for fixing bugs in the same way that we get updates on our iPhones? Like how does that work? Because most of the devices that I've ever played around with, they are always connected. It's connected to the internet.
So, we start from this premise that we are a security hole as a company, right? Somebody kidnapped my kids and tells me to make a firmware that's evil, right? And I push it out there, right? If it's automatic updates, I mean, you take the firmware. And this is not out of realm of possibilities, right? So the way we do it is to prevent us to being at risk and you of being at risk. So when we have an update out, it has to be very deliberate from the user to go and update that update. And we're very clear when we push out updates saying, hey, this one is just a feature. If you want that feature, upgrade. If you don't want that feature, don't upgrade, right? Or, there is a security concern and we upgraded, we improved something, please upgrade, right? And we tell our users to don't upgrade immediately. Go look at what everybody else is doing, the people who check our code, and sort of like take your time. Nobody's in a hurry, and be safe. Now,
I know, but no one reads the user agreement. They just click.
Exactly. That's part of the reason why it's not connected too. It's like we don't want to be in that scenario. We don't want to put our customers at risk by having that automatic or easy to install update. Yeah.
So basically, though, if you have single sig and your device is compromised, let's say, I don't know, you either lose it or it gets destroyed in some way, and you don't have access to your seed phrase, that Bitcoin just stays on the ledger and no one moves it, right? Like you don't have access to it. There's no way to get it.
That's right. It's you're essentially just doing a donation to all the other Bitcoiners.
And that's why sometimes, we talk about how Satoshi's wallet has never moved. We can see it on the ledger, but easily he could verify who he is because he could sign, right? And then all of a sudden those coins could move. I wonder if that would ever happen. Okay, I want to hear a little bit more about your backstory, because I think that will help me to understand how you got to building this company, which, by the way, the BlockClock is from your company, which I love. The OpenDimes, that's how I gifted Bitcoin to my niece. I gave her an OpenDime. And part of the reason why is I knew they wouldn't be able to figure it out. So it would be safely there for them to not take the Bitcoin off of the OpenDime. So my brother's not that tech savvy. Okay. Where are you from, first of all? And what did you study when you were young? What did you want to be when you grew up?
So I grew up in Brazil. I was born there. I was privy to three currency collapses, and a haircut on the bank account, a bail-in. So, I always joke that like Brazil made me a Bitcoiner. And I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Really? What did your
Yes.
parents do?
So my father and his father, they built like a very big business in Brazil that also collapsed to the government BS there. And I don't know, just like always family that was entrepreneurial. We've always built businesses, and I just grew up, participating in that. Yeah, it's I've never sort of like had a specific, I want to be this when I grew up. It's just, I like business and I like building stuff.
So did you start building companies right away, or did you go to school?
So I've been kicked out of a lot of schools, but I did go to a few of them. Yes, during the internet boom, I had a little company where we made people websites and sort of taking up on that as a teenager.
It's time for a quick break to hear these messages from my partners. First up, CrowdHealth, a Bitcoin alternative to health insurance. Health insurance costs can be sky high today, and you essentially send money every month to a massive corporation, the health insurance black hole, as I call it. And if you don't need any health care, you never see that money again, right? But if you do need to go to a doctor, you end up having to pay even more out of pocket, especially if you end up as one of the 20% of claims on average that aren't covered. With CrowdHealth, you pay a small monthly fee that goes into an account that you actually accrue over time and is yours to use or keep if you ever leave. You can even save that money in Bitcoin. CrowdHealth is all about community, and the community crowdfunds everyone's healthcare. So if something does happen or you have a doctor visit, CrowdHealth will negotiate down the medical bill much lower than what insurance would be. And then the community helps you cover it. And in return, you help others cover their needs. For more information, you can head to joincrowdhealth.com/Natalie. And if you use promo code Natalie, you get 6 months for $99. All right, next up, iTrustCapital. iTrustCapital lets you invest in Bitcoin for your retirement with the tax benefits of an IRA. You can defer taxes on gains using a crypto IRA, or with a Roth IRA, you can withdraw tax-free at retirement. And here are some important things to know given the recent crypto contagion. iTrust does not lend against client assets. iTrust accounts are also FDIC insured up to $250,000, and iTrust does not hold customer assets or money. Assets are actually held between Coinbase custody and a custody platform called Fireblocks. And Fireblocks, by the way, underlies pretty much the entire industry. So if you're doing retirement planning and considering adding Bitcoin to your IRA portfolio, you can sign up for an account and get a $100 bonus at itrust.capital/Natalie Brunell. And how did you find the white paper? How did you get into Bitcoin so early?
So I was already in Canada at that time, and we were building, I can't remember what we were building at the time. I think it was a time series search engine for a search engine for time series data.
You were in Brazil or already in Canada?
In Canada.
Okay.
I've been in Canada for like over 20 years. Peter found a paper on Slashdot. Slashdot is an old website where people used to post stuff. Read the paper and like, holy crap, this is amazing, but also absolutely idiotic, and this would never go anywhere. Anybody who says otherwise, back in the day, it's like absolutely full of crap. It was absurd. Like the idea that we can have an uncensorable money that is like protected against inflation sounds insane, right? Especially proof of work was very novel, right? So we kind of dove into the rabbit hole. We built projects right away to sort of try to understand it. We had payment terminals, debit cards for Bitcoin in 2013, just slowly building things and learning, and then we built the company that we have now.
So were you in any of those chats where Satoshi was actually talking about Bitcoin and people were trying to contribute and the first Bitcoin were being exchanged, eventually the $10,000 pizza transaction? Were you part of all these, or at least monitoring them?
I was a lurker on Bitcoin Talk. I still have
Okay.
an account there that we post sometimes from. But you know, very early in the days, the we were building this company, but it was kind of scary. Like, okay, so if you know Bitcoin prehistory, right? eCash, Liberty Reserve, all these things, you go like, okay, you go to jail. If you
Yeah.
try to build a new economic network, you go to jail.
Yep.
So we were fairly sort of quiet and reserved for many years. The people who knew us, and we were providing back-end services for BitMEX and Coinapult and a lot of early companies, and there was Satoshi Dice at the time. It was a very different environment,
Yeah.
and the education wasn't clear. I think it was Trace Mayer who first came up with the idea that Bitcoin was actually a store of value, not just payments.
Mhm.
Um, it was very different.
It's crazy to think about how difficult it was even to get Bitcoin back then, unless you were mining it. But I mean, much less self-custody. So what was the first cold storage wallet? When did this start to come out and have you go, oh, we want to make one? There was,
So just for sake of reference, this is funny. So my first Bitcoin, I actually met with somebody at a Starbucks with two laptops and just like, here's cash.
yeah,
There was no exchanges, right?
right.
And the price, there was a IRC chat that would post like what people believed the price was at the time.
That's
Price
crazy.
discovery was not that simple.
Yeah.
And there were no hardware wallets. The first hardware wallet was I can't remember if BTC Chip was before Trezor or not. BTC Chip became Ledger.
Oh,
We were making essentially hardware wallets for enterprise, right? Like server like hardware wallets at that time. And I think it was about 2013, 2014 when we started having access to like usable hardware wallets from other makers that we did support in our system as well.
and so these big exchanges, the ones that hold 100,000 Bitcoin, the one that holds, Michael Saylor's Bitcoin, they have all of those on a cold storage wallet, or how do they custody Bitcoin?
So I mean, it depends, and they're not very forthcoming about like what they do, and so we have in the industry, in the security industry for enterprise, we have these things called HSMs, hardware security modules, and they're kind of like a server that does things in a secure enclave and can do more stuff, but. They'll use multi-sig. They will try to keep all those code, and there's a lot of processes and audits and things that help with this sort of like less velocity in terms of liquidity, large fund fund pools. Now, back in the day, exchanges used to get hacked all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all the time. It was like every month there was somebody who lost all the funds, until the industry learned how to do this, right? Because see, this idea that the money is in the computer,
Yeah,
right? Like
right.
it's fairly new, right? Because before the bank had just a ledger of like who owes what, right? And say for example, a hacker, which banks get hacked all the time, it's just not public, goes in and sends all the money from Natalie out, right, to some bank account in Eastern Europe. What happens is the bank goes and just rolls it back, right? Because it's not hard money. They can do whatever they want. They can even print it again and fill up your account.
Right. They can edit the
Uh,
ledger.
Exactly. See, so they don't really care about security in the way that we do. With
Yeah.
Bitcoin, because it's hard money, the little secret is your hard money. We have to keep that ultra secure.
Mhm.
So much so the security industry never sold stuff directly to consumers,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? Like this is all new. So hardware wallets, is how we're creating this new future, right? Like, do we know if this is the final form of these devices? I don't know. I mean, we're gonna keep on iterating, keep on inventing, right, until we get to a point where like it's easy and secure, right? But we can't compromise on security because it's your life savings.
Well, that gives me an interesting question because it's like every year there's a new iPhone. Every year. And after a couple of years, your old one doesn't really work and they throttle it. And so they actually incentivize you to get the new ones. Does that work the same way with cold storage, or can I buy one in the year 2023 and it'll work just the same in the year 2053?
Here's the cool thing. It doesn't matter, right? Because seeds, right, your 12 words are vendor agnostic. You don't like me anymore, you load your seed in the competitor, and boom, your money shows up again and you can do whatever you need. That's the beauty of that. Now, I can speak for my company. We launch essentially a cold card every couple of years because security is a moving target, right? And there is more features, new things we want to do. And chips change and we want more and more. So right now we have the tap signer, which is essentially a credit card like hardware wallet that you can just tap your phone to sign. We have the Q1, which is a device that has like a full keyboard on it for you to go, mountain man style. We're trying, because this space is so early, we're trying to figure out and play with how people are going to use this. We don't know.
Right. Well, cold storage, again, obviously the best way to keep your seed phrase, to keep your Bitcoin safe, taking it off of the exchanges and having this, privately becoming your own bank. But for those people who they think that that's too scary, maybe they don't trust themselves, they think it's too big of a responsibility, what do you think is the next best thing?
So I always advise people, the first thing you should do is not get a hardware wallet. Okay. Go to your Coinbase account or whatever you buy Bitcoin, Swan or whatever.
Yeah.
Swan. Coinbase is a horrible company. Don't use Coinbase, use Swan. Seriously, it's like personal opinion here. But anyway, so go to your Swan account, download a software wallet on your phone, right? So like an app wallet. There's a million of them. Great. Download, put $20 worth of your Bitcoin on it and learn how to set up a seed to the phone, learn how to send Bitcoin, learn how to receive Bitcoin, get comfortable, right? It's a new thing.
Right.
It's kind of like the first time you get set up with checks.
Yeah.
You're going, what is this thing? How do I write down here? It's new. So learn how to use it and you're going to get more comfortable. And then a lot of these things we're talking about that sound absolutely insane will start making sense to you. And you don't have to come from 0 to 100, right? You learn to drive with somebody on the other seat, around your block. You don't go in the highway. So you don't go and you buy a hardware wallet and send all your life savings to it immediately.
Right.
Learn to drive, right? That's kind of how I like to get people into it. Maybe load some Sats cards, gift it to people. Play, and you will become more proficient. And then you go okay, now I have all this pile of Bitcoin. I'm a little bit more knowledgeable. I can choose a hardware wallet, right? Hopefully you get a code card, and then you follow the instructions, and now you're self-sovereign.
I really appreciate that, because for so many people it is intimidating. And thank you for letting me ask you questions that totally a new person would ask. Most of which I knew the answer to, but some of it was new for me too. So last couple of questions. If you have Bitcoin, do you want to divide it into a couple of seed phrases? And I don't mean multi-sig. I mean have let's say you have one Bitcoin, put half of it on one storage device, then get a seed phrase, put maybe 0.25 on another, 0.25 on another. I mean, what's the safest route in terms of should you have all Bitcoin in one place with one seed phrase that you potentially do multi-sig with?
I'm a big believer that people should have a few different setups just for sake of hygiene, right? So you have spending amounts on your phone, the same way you don't carry your life savings in your wallet, right? There's a boat passing by. So the same way, hang on, I'm going to just wait for the noise.
Oh, I don't hear it at all. You're good.
Oh, okay. So the same way you don't have your life savings in your wallet, right?
Yeah.
You don't have all your Bitcoin in the same place, right? So you're going to have, say, a few $100 in your phone, right? And then, you're now somebody who's on the Bitcoin standard, right? And you need to spend Bitcoin in a little bit more capacity. So maybe you have an operational hardware wallet that is just single sig, that is a little bit more available to you so that you can send a few $1,000s back and forth. And then you have your super cold storage where it's your, multi-generational wealth, right? So on that one, you go and you make that cold, you make that hard to get. Like, making it hard to spend is a feature, not a bug, right? When it comes to large amounts of money, right? So, for example, if you have a bunch of gold bars in a safe deposit box, it's not just available to you in your living room when you want to buy something from the TV, from the shopping channel, right? You have to go to the bank, you have to sign something, you have to get it and transport it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to keep in mind. Do segregate things. Now, in terms of like multiple places for code, that will depend on the kind of wealth you have, what kind of setup you have, what kind of country you live in. It's important for you to sort of think through, your personal life circumstances.
I mean, this is so interesting. One of the things I did learn on this conversation is I really thought that unless someone has your passcode, you could literally leave your hardware wallet, out in the street. And if someone picked it up and they don't know your passcode, they can't get into it. But it sounds like there are vulnerabilities, and depending on the company as well, someone could pick it up. And if they know what they're doing, they could actually extract your seed, which is very scary. So you have to also put not just your seed phrase in a safe place, but also it sounds like your cold storage wallet.
Yeah, or you use these very clever ways of resolving some of these issues, right? Like you have the passphrase or something like that, so you extend the secret so that if somebody gets hold of it, they can use it. However, it's easy enough for you to be operational in that sense. I mean, if you ever want to, we can actually sort of like walk through some proper ways of doing this, because it's a hard conversation to sort of explain to people the basics and then get into like all the complex ways you can do this. It just confuses everybody. I normally avoid that conversation of actually like, here are the things you can do versus like, what is this and how does it work?
I don't share which particular brands because I'm worried that someone's going to buy that exact brand and then do something wrong on their end and I'm going to get, blamed for it. But it's just a hard decision to make. Which one of these? There are now more and more. I mean, I can just list off the top of my head: Coldcard, Trezor, Ledger, Jade. I'm probably missing a bunch, but how does someone make the decision? Is it just a ton of research?
Right, because I make one, so I'm very biased.
Yeah.
We are very proud to make what we believe to be the gold standard of Bitcoin custody, right? We don't have shitcoins, so we don't have to make trade-offs there. We don't have the software wallet part of it because we believe that's also a bad trade-off. So I think the market now has like quite a few options, right? And they make different kinds of trade-offs. We want to just make sure that your life savings go on to your heirs, right? So that is number one concern for us. And then we have many other ways that we try to make it easy to use, so that people don't make mistakes. That's how we do our thinking. We find that most wallets in the market are sort of like, how do we make it easy for grandma at the expense of all the security and all the other issues that I've sort of went into.
A lot of people don't believe that one of these really big exchanges could actually be compromised or that the government would take over and not allow you to access your Bitcoin. So what's your pitch to people who say, it's a lot of responsibility to take it on my own. I don't want to go burying seed phrases or buying a big vault. I do want to trust a company. What's your pitch to say that cold storage is safer and better and you should really reconsider?
The whole point of Bitcoin is self-custody. If you don't want to take the responsibility, don't buy Bitcoin. It really is that simple, because I don't think there will be anything more painful than buying that Bitcoin and seeing it grow in value and then getting rug pulled by a third party, right? Third parties are a liability and there is no insurance. The best insurance out there will be like peanuts, right? So, if you're gonna have third parties involved, it's probably not for you yet. Try to get there, and try to take advantage of that, because that's the whole point.
Well, this will really help. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts, or what do you want people to know before we depart?
I think the only thing I'd leave people with is that it's early. It's very early. It's so early. Gold lived 5,000 years before fiat killed it. Okay, Bitcoin is 14 years old. That's it. So you know, when you're early in a space, everything looks difficult. Everything looks strange. So just take your time, educate yourself. Play with it. Try sending and receiving money. Like, don't listen to the hardcore people or to the people who are fiat maxis, right? So like, stay in the middle. Try to find your own opinion around things, and take self custody. We're trying hard to make products to help people do this. And if you need help, like, we have people that can help you do this. But like, take the leap. It's important.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to let you get back to your lake. I love it. By the way, why do you live in Canada? Canada's like, Bitcoiners are always complaining about Trudeau and Canada. You've lived there for 20 years?
Yeah, so it's weird because I came to Canada before it was so commie, right? The commie stuff is recent, and hopefully we're gonna fix that. It really is a wonderful country. It's a shame the direction that's going.
It's really beautiful, and I love the Bitcoiners from there. I had a chance to visit some of the cities last year, and just absolutely beautiful. So NVK, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Coin Stories. Again, hit like on the video and make sure that you have those notifications on so you don't miss out on any new episodes. And I would love to hear from you. If you have suggestions, feedback, guest requests, please email me at natalie@talkingbitcoin.com. Thanks so much.